Welcome to the EQ Fit podcast. Our mission is to equip people to prosper in every aspect of their life. Whether you're at home or in the workplace, we explore practical ways of improving success, satisfaction, finding balance, and building enjoyable and beneficial relationships. Thank you for joining us. If you've listened to any of my episodes on this podcast, I'm sure by now you figured out I'm a huge proponent of good validated assessments. But it isn't just the assessment itself. I have been through the utilization of so many different assessments over the years. What I'm really looking for is, what is the data that comes out of it, and is it actionable? Is it something that really has value? Does it mean something? Can we apply it in a way where we can transform something? Whether it's performance or understanding or insight or clarity, is it actionable data? Well, for the next few episodes, I'm going to focus on a set of assessments that I am a huge proponent of. And there's a reason behind this. This isn't just to talk to you and try to get you to use the assessments that I'm talking about. I would love that if you did. But the real reason is, one of the most frequent questions I get asked is, how do you measure a leader's performance? How do you measure a team's performance? How do you know what to measure? And when people do climate surveys for their organization, and I laugh a little bit, and I'll tell you why. Because they get this huge binder of information, and there's some good climate surveys out there. But the problem is, that data that they get does not have a clear path forward. It will tell you what your engagement level is, but what do you do with that? It'll tell you what your employees think about a certain thing, or about the culture, or about their leadership, but what do you do with that? If an assessment does not facilitate transformation, then I'm not all that interested in it. If all you're doing is using something to gain some data that really doesn't have legs, so to speak, then it doesn't make a lot of sense. And take it from somebody who's been doing this for more than 35 years. We want to get the best information possible so we can make the best decisions, so we can create the best path forward, so we can have the best success. I mean, it is an equation. It's a sequence of events. And if any of one of those is out of place, then the whole thing kind of falls apart. It's a house of cards. But it's got to start with good data. And that's why I'm such a huge proponent of what I call multi-dimensional assessments. And what does that mean? There's a lot of organizations out there that use one assessment to hire. They use one assessment as a pre-hire assessment, and they base a lot of their hiring decision on that. There's two problems with that. That's single-dimensional, not multi-dimensional. And number two, you're kind of asking for trouble, because a single assessment for making a decision about people in the workplace really opens up some potential liability, which is why I never use a single assessment. I use multiple assessments and, of course, my years of experience. But let me get back to what I want to focus on today. That was kind of a preamble to help you understand, why do I talk about these different assessments? Because they have real life, real world application. And the group of assessments I'm talking about today is the vital signs assessments from 6 Seconds. Today is going to be an overview of the 3 different assessments from vital signs. Then in the following episodes, I will break them down into individual assessment episodes where we'll talk about the Leadership 360. Why is it good? What is the information in there? Why is it important? What is the actionable pathway forward? Then we'll talk about the team vital signs. And then in the next one after that, we'll talk about the organizational vital signs. And all of these have the same foundation of 5 success factors. And those success factors are very common sense things that we want to understand about a leader, about a team, and about an entire organization. And I'll get into that in a little bit here. First, as I always like to do, let me start off with a story. I've been a huge fan of these vital signs assessments for many years. Why? Because they are by far the most effective measures that I have ever found for providing clear and accurate insight into the specific drivers of success for leaders, for teams, and for organizations. So what are those 5 drivers I talked about? Trust, execution, teamwork, navigating change, and motivation. Now, in addition to the fact that we're measuring what we should be measuring, truly measuring what matters, the data is actionable. And I'll use that word many times because there's a lot of things you can do to get data, but is it actionable? Is it something that really gives you information you can use? And you can make things better. You can get better outcomes by using that insight and that information. So I use this entire suite of vital signs assessments with an organization that decided to be proactive in their approach to creating a competitive advantage. And I want to take a minute and define that. I want you to think about people in an organization, employees, leaders, owners, whoever they are, all of the people, or what some call the human capital. That is the most important asset in any organization, because as good as technology is today, things don't get done. Success does not happen without people. So when I say a competitive advantage, it is creating a competitive advantage through people. Now, this organization was struggling in many different areas. Leadership effectiveness was not good. There was a low employee engagement. There were dysfunctional teams. There was culture erosion. The revenue growth was not where they needed it to be. And their customer satisfaction ratings were much lower than what they had been in the past and much lower than they wanted. And basically, they had no idea where to start. Now, that is where I brought the Vital Signs toolkit, what I call the toolkit, the 3 different assessments. And it really provided them a lot of value because they had to figure out first where to start to make the changes they needed to make. So we first started with the organizational vital signs, which is a climate survey type of assessment, but it comes with a clear pathway on things like if your engagement levels are low with your employees, what do you do about that? Well, it becomes clear with this set of assessments how you move forward to engage employees at a higher level. And the cool thing about that is the other 2 assessments add to that process of enhancing engagement. And that's why we do them. And spoiler alert, the Leadership 360 assessment was really the thing that helped us understand why employee engagement was so low. So we did the organizational vital signs assessment, and it really gave us clarity It allowed everybody in the organization to have a voice. And what we realized was engagement was low due to a perceived lack of leadership, which ultimately impacted team performance. See how those all three connected in that one sentence? Because of a lack of leadership, it impacted team performance, and we're learning that in the organizational vital signs climate survey. So the next step then was to do the Leadership 360. This brought clarity to each of the leaders' strengths, their weaknesses, and specifically what would be the most effective to help them in their leadership skill development. Because that was really the crux of the low employee engagement levels. And frankly, there were a lot of other things that we talked about, customer service and revenue generation and some other things that were being directly impacted by poor leadership performance. So if you're not familiar with a 360 assessment, basically it's a very simple process of asking different groups of people to answer the same questions about one leader. So it could be the leader's supervisor, whoever that is, could be the owner of the organization. It is their peers, it is their direct reports, it is other people in the organization that work with this leader but maybe are not direct reports or peers. So you get a really good sense from a Leadership 360 of how you're showing up as a leader. And funny story, and this came out of this organization. I had a leader sit down as I was giving the feedback to this leader. They said to me, well, that's just their perception of my leadership. And I just smiled and said, yes, that's exactly right. And he said, well, that's not my problem. I said, oh, yes, it is. It is definitely your problem because their perception is their reality. And if this is how you're showing up as a leader, then your leadership impact is going to be minimal. And all of a sudden, you could kind of see the light come on. This isn't about being right or wrong. And this is where this organization got so hung up and where the culture was eroding, was they had gotten into this defensive mode of us versus them, department to department. And it was such a mess. And it was so unnecessary. And that's why doing these assessments provides an objective look at what's going on for people. And I don't care if it's their perception and whether their perception is wrong in your eyes as the leader, it doesn't matter. If that's how they're perceiving your leadership, then, it's not going to be all that great. Your leaders are not really leaders if there aren't followers. They may be managers, but they may not be leaders. Leaders is influence. It's inspiration. And so, great tool in that Leadership 360. And in this case, in this organization, the team vital signs assessment came last. It just seemed to be the right sequence and the right flow. So we did the organizational vital signs to understand where the soft spots were and where the issues were and where the strengths were. Then we did the Leadership 360s on every leader in the organization, which really helped them individually figure out where they were. And every employee in the organization obviously knew this was going on. And I encouraged the leaders to provide feedback to their teams about what they were going to do to enhance their leadership for that team. That was a bit of a humbling experience for some of them, but they started to see real value and real increased engagement when they started to share how they were going to improve their leadership skills and their leadership impact with their team. And so the team vital signs came last in this organization. It is similar to a climate survey. But it is very focused on those 5 drivers of success that we talked about for a specific team. And this provided the teams with a very similar experience to what the leader had in their Leadership 360, measuring the same kinds of things, the same 5 drivers. Now, the outcomes, the 4 outcomes for each of these different assessments is different. And that makes sense. The outcomes for a leader will be different than the outcomes for a team, which will be different than the outcomes for an organization. But the cool part about that is they're all aligned. They work together. So when you do the entire suite of assessments on an organization, on leaders, and on teams, you have a holistic look and a holistic insight into what the best path forward is to get where you want to go. This project was a great example of the power of gathering good data that is actionable, and then putting that data to work for you, putting that insight to work for you to get the improved outcomes that you want. Okay, I'm going to break this down as concisely as I can with the 3 different assessments, but specifically related to the way that these 5 drivers impact each of these different assessments and what we're measuring in them with these 5 drivers. So I'll go through this at kind of a high level because in future episodes, I'm going to go deeper into each one of these. First, we'll start with the Leadership Vital Signs 360, which is a holistic view of leadership. It is designed to provide a comprehensive picture of a leader's effectiveness from multiple perspectives. And that's the reason we call it a 360. Multiple people providing their input about how that leader is showing up in their eyes. So let me break this down. Trust, execution, teamwork, change, and motivation. And that change thing is all about being able to navigate change and move forward, even if there's stress or pressure involved. So in the Leadership Vital Signs 360 assessment, what do these 5 success factors do for us if we're measuring these things? Trust. This explores how well leaders create an environment where other people feel respected, safe, and valued. A leader who can cultivate trust can inspire loyalty and engagement from their team, which directly influences productivity and morale. Execution. Execution is about ensuring actions align with intentions. Effective leaders guide their teams toward achieving goals through clear priorities and a strong sense of direction. And that's where this Leadership Vital Signs 360 assesses how well a leader drives focus and efficiency. The third one is teamwork. Leadership isn't just about authority. As a matter of fact, it's not really about authority. That's more, if you're leading from authority, you're more of a manager than a leader. Leadership is about influence. It's about inspiring people. It's about engaging people. And it's about collaboration. This assessment helps leaders understand how effectively they can engage others, foster communication and collaboration, and empower their teams to function cohesively. And that's critical. If you want an effective, high-performing team, there has to be cohesiveness. We see that in sports all the time. You may see a team that has star players, and you may see another team that doesn't really have a lot of star players, but they play very well together. And many times they will beat the teams that have the star players because they are cohesive. And then there's this change or navigating change. It is the ability for a leader to really be able to lead their people through change and navigate that change for the best possible outcomes. Navigate it, adapt to it, embrace it, and it's crucial to build resilience and agility in today's world. And the fifth driving factor here, the success factor we're looking at, is motivation. This Leadership Vital Signs 360 evaluates a leader's ability to inspire and to energize their team. Think about this for a minute. Trust, execution, teamwork, the ability to navigate change effectively, and motivation. If we have direct measures of those 5 drivers of success, and those are the same 5 drivers of success that we have with the team vital signs and with the organizational vital signs assessment, then you're going to know exactly where the strengths are, where the gaps are, where you need to shore up certain skills, certain focus. This is what I mean by taking good data and making it work for you. Instead of just taking, well, I think we need that, or maybe we need this. No, let's assess. Let's not guess. Now, the Leadership Vital Signs 360 brings that actionable data into crystal clear information that can be used to create the right path forward, basically. So let's move on to the team vital signs. And again, I'm going to hit this at a high level, and we'll go into it deeper in a future episode. So the team vital signs, as you would expect, all of the people in that team have the same questions they answer about their team. And we take that data. Now, here's the 5 drivers of success and how they work in the team vital signs. Trust. In a team setting, trust is absolutely foundational. Without it, teams cannot effectively collaborate or innovate. You get a lot of defensiveness if there isn't much trust. The TVS, Team Vital Signs, assesses the presence of psychological safety, which is a key determinant of how well teams can challenge one another, share honest and constructive feedback, and commit to joint goals. Execution. How does that measure work in this Team Vital Signs assessment? Team effectiveness depends on clear and aligned execution. This assessment provides insight into how well a team can set their priorities, how they can utilize resources, how they can maintain focus to achieve shared goals. Teamwork. This Team Vital Signs explores team relationships, focusing on communication, respect, and support. A high-performing team is characterized by strong interpersonal connections, which are evaluated through this assessment. Change. How do we navigate change in our team? Are we good at it? Are we not good at it? Are we change embracing? Are we willing to change if it makes sense? Teams often resist change unless they understand its value and feel equipped to manage it, and that is absolutely key. The TVS helps identify how well a team can adapt and innovate in the face of shifting circumstances, which is the definition of change. And the last one, again, is motivation. Team success is fueled by motivation, and that's just common sense. Motivation is the energy to get things done and to move forward. The TVS examines the team's overall energy and commitment level, and it indicates whether team members are inspired to give their best and find meaning in their contributions or not. So that's the team vital signs. Let's move on to the organizational vital signs. This is everybody in the organization taking this climate survey, right? And it's really more of an assessment than a climate survey. And I'm not going to get into the differences here. I can talk about that in a future episode if you're interested. Feel free to reach out and let me know if you are. The climate of an organization is the major determinant of employee engagement, employee retention, overall productivity, and that's what we learn when we do the organizational vital signs assessment. So let's go to our 5 drivers of success. They're exactly the same, but they mean a little something different in the 3 different areas. So what about an organization? Trust. Trust at an organizational level refers to the climate of safety and respect. An organization where employees trust leadership, processes, and they trust other people is better positioned to navigate challenges. And I'll add, take advantage of opportunities. The OVS, Organizational Vital Signs, measures the extent to which trust permeates the organization and then identifies areas where improvements are needed. This is the path forward I'm talking about. This is what I mean by actionable data, which I'm very much locked in on. If it's not actionable data, if it's just data for data purposes, why are you doing that? It just doesn't make sense. It's a waste of time and resources. So use things that are actionable, that you can really do something with. That was trust as far as the organizational vital signs. Next is execution. The ability of an organization to effectively align their resources and their strategies to deliver results is a key focus of the organizational vital signs. This assessment identifies obstacles to productivity, and it reveals whether organizational systems support efficient and effective work or not. Then we have teamwork. Now, this is teamwork on a larger level. Organizational teamwork extends beyond individual teams and departments. It reflects the interconnectedness of the entire entity, the entire organization. And the OVS assesses how well different teams and functions collaborate toward shared organizational goals, uncovering silos, or even communication breakdowns. Again, actionable data. If we see that we have a siloed organization and that is not intentional and it's holding the organization back, we will know exactly what to do to make the changes necessary. Will it be easy? Probably not. But at least we have good data to go on to make good decisions, create a good path forward, and make the change initiatives that we need to get where we want to go. Otherwise, you're just going to keep experiencing the same things over and over and over. Change. Organizational agility is a critical success factor in today's constantly evolving business environment. The OVS assesses how well the organization as a whole manages change, how it embraces innovation, and how it encourages continuous learning. That is an absolute critical success factor, continuous learning. Kind of a sub-success factor here, okay, underneath change. If you're learning, you are changing. If you're not learning, you're not changing in that way, and you're losing your competitive advantage. So providing leaders with this kind of insight into potential barriers and into adaptability is absolutely critical for organizational success. I have seen amazing strategic plans absolutely trashed because the people were not equipped to carry out and execute the plans, which included change. There was no teamwork, there was no execution, they were not embracing the change. So I don't care how good your strategic plan is. If you don't equip your people, if you don't strengthen these areas, these 5 driving success factors, then it's really not going to make much difference what your strategic plan is. The last one here for the organization is motivation. Motivation at an organizational level examines overall engagement and alignment. Employees who feel motivated contribute more, and they contribute positively to the organizational culture, which we do assess in the organizational vital signs by measuring the degree of alignment between organizational values and employee experiences. And I'm going to just add right here, again, this is not about selling you an assessment. I want you to be thinking about getting the best information you can to make the best decisions possible to create the best possible path forward so that you can implement that. You can customize these. You can add additional questions. You can go deeper in specific areas of interest. So these are incredibly flexible tools that provide amazing insight and information, but not if you don't use them. So when we look at all of that, what we come down to is a reality that we can now gain information in areas that was not previously possible. And frankly, there aren't enough organizations out there using this kind of assessment. Yes, there are organizations out there that use a leadership 360 of some kind. But I don't know of another group of assessments that are so well designed to gain insight in every important aspect of an organization. Leaders, yes, but also teams and also the entire organization. And that the way that these things are put together really keeps a continuity of focus throughout the entire process. And isn't that what we need? The best insight possible to make the best decisions we can. So let me take this back up to a higher level and just look at this and say, from my experience, these are the most impactful assessments that you can use for your organization, whether it's the entire organization or your leaders or your teams, hopefully for all three, because of how well they work together. And they're designed that way. This is not piecemeal. This is not, oh, we're going to do a personality assessment over here, and oh, we're going to go do some strategic planning over there, and oh, maybe we should do a workshop or a team building thing. No. None of that makes any sense until you know what the current reality is and you know what to do with the current reality. That's the path forward through the actionable data that I'm talking about. And that's what this toolkit does. And that's why I'm so high on it and why I think it's so important. Actionable data, systemic insights, throughout the organization, every aspect of the organization, targeted growth opportunities, and here's the kicker. I guarantee you this will drive ROI. I have seen it happen over and over and over. One organization I worked with a few years ago, when we took this approach to putting this into place, they got an incredible result. They were able to increase their revenues by 28%, and they doubled their net profit. Why do I focus on those numbers? Because if you're a CEO, if you're a CFO, if you're a C anything, you tend to focus on numbers. So I'm speaking to you directly and anybody else who cares about numbers. These are real dollars that drop right to the bottom line. If you could go through a 12-month process that would increase your revenue by 28% and would double your net profit, is that something you'd invest a little bit of money into? Our clients see anywhere from a 7 to a 26 times return on investment, meaning for every dollar spent with me, that's what they see. Now, again, please, I'm not here trying to sell you. I would love to work with more people. I have capacity, I have opportunity, we're a growing organization. Okay, set that aside. My real passion is to equip people to prosper. And whether you do it through me or somewhere else, these are the kinds of tools that will help you to prosper. So when we really get down to what do we do with all of this to get to that ROI that we're really interested in and we'd like to see, well, we take these tools and we put them into play. We put them into practice. Trust. Who doesn't want more trust? Execution. Who doesn't want better execution? Teamwork. Who doesn't want to work in a team where you enjoy working and you celebrate your wins together and there's cohesiveness and support and care? Change. Who does not want to be more resilient and agile and more flexible? You know, I've got a saying I created several years ago when I was going and presenting at a conference called Leaders Worth Following. Agility is the ability to take advantage of opportunity with speed and efficiency. Agility is the ability to take advantage of opportunity with speed and efficiency. The only way that happens is you have to know where you are today, you have to know where you want to go, and you have to make an effort to get there and equip yourself and your people to be ready to take advantage of those opportunities. Because the more agile you are, the more you will have a competitive advantage in the marketplace. So pulling all this together, this toolkit, this vital signs assessment toolkit, is absolutely invaluable to help assess leaders, teams, and entire organizations. The ability to provide validated, actionable data on these 5 critical success factors of trust, execution, teamwork, change, and motivation. It enables targeted interventions when necessary that lead to measurable improvements and real ROI. So we're all on a journey, right? We're all working towards something. The problem for most people today is the world is moving so fast. There are so many distractions, so many devices, so many things going on that we tend to focus on the destination more than the journey. And the real wins come in the journey, one win at a time. And those accumulate over time. It isn't the destination that is the most important thing. It's what do we do with every day we're on this journey? How do we invest in ourselves? How do we invest in other people? How do we know where to invest? You would not invest in the stock market without doing some research and gathering some good data and some good insights. All I'm asking you to do is the same thing with yourself and your people in the workplace. If you want a competitive advantage, that's the way you get there. Thank you for joining us for this episode. If you have any questions about this week's episode, or maybe a suggestion for future episodes you'd like us to explore, please contact us through our website at eqfit.org. For more information and inspiration, connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube at EQFit.